I mean, if at least she would have said you tried to take a peek, which she's saying you didn't, but she said you looked me in the eye and I told you to look away.
Yeah, we've lost some talk.
Hi and welcome to Blossom Talk. I'm Kjersti Flor, journalist, Hollywood truth teller, and your voice of reason in a town built on delusion. Happy Friday, everyone. Yesterday was crazy. There were so many new filings from Justin Baldoni. If you follow this drama, you know that yesterday was a big day because he filed his summary judgment so that the judge could look at all the evidence and make a decision based on that if this case should ever go to trial. The main filing was, I think, 83 pages, and then they added another 34 pages with a lot of links to media, and then they also added 4 new videos. I showed all of them in my episode yesterday, going through them and what they actually mean. And as we understand by now, what Baldoni's team was trying to do here is tell the judge that if even all of these things were true, and they're not denying that these incidents happened. They're not denying that they showed her a birthing video. They're not denying that Baldoni called her outfit sexy. But they're saying to the judge, all of this stuff even isn't enough to call it SH. Because no matter how you twist this around for people to try and understand why Blake Lively was offended by any of this stuff or felt unsafe, it will not fit in the category of harassment. And that is the reason why they also added all this new video footage, all these new text messages, and all these new emails and depositions. And I'm going to go through a lot more of that in this episode. As I said yesterday, I'm curious to see how the media will pick this up. And to my pleasant surprise, they're actually reporting on this truthfully. So the narrative now is focusing on that kiss that Blake Lively planted on Justin Baldoni in the scene that was cut from the movie. And Baldoni said that that kiss was unscripted, meaning that Blake added extra kisses into the movie. So how can she complain about him kissing her in a scene when she added extra kissing scenes herself? Also, there's a lot of stories about Ryan's anger and how he yelled at Baldoni in that penthouse. So the way things are portrayed in the media today is that Blake added extra kissing scenes. Ryan Reynolds was furious. Also, there's a report from an insider claiming that they're not surprised by Ryan Reynolds' behavior here because he is known for having 2 personalities. I also want to go through Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath's depositions. There are parts of it that they use here as evidence of things that happen on the set. And also this heartbreaking text message that Baldoni sent to some of his friends after he had been berated and belittled by Ryan Reynolds for 5 or 6 hours in Blake and Ryan's penthouse. That's how long Ryan was yelling at Baldoni and Jamie Heath. We also need to look at the reason why Blake didn't file a summary judgment herself. Everyone was waiting for her side of this to tell the judge, here's all our evidence, we don't need to go to trial, but she never did. Very interesting. Let's try and find out why. Okay, as I said, a lot of the media picked up this kissing scene and made headlines from it, which is really, really bad for Blake's case. People magazine says that Justin Baldoni accuses Blake of improvising a kiss in scene cut from final film. Watch the new footage. And they're talking about this kiss that was added to the scene in every take. We don't know how many takes there were. There could have been 15 takes. That means that Blake then allegedly kissed Justin Baldoni 15 times and it was not in the script. They're also mentioning the other kissing scenes in the film in this article. They're saying Lively also complains that there was inappropriate and improvised kissing during the first period of filming before the strike break. So there was a writer's strike while they were doing this movie, so they had to have a break for a few months. And that's when Blake gave Justin Baldoni a list of 30 things that he was not allowed to do on the set. And if he didn't sign that, she would not come back to filming. Anyways, it says here that, but in fact, the only 2 kissing scenes filmed during the initial filming period were both scenes that included kisses as written in the script. These kissing scenes were not improvised, so they were in the script. But as you know, Blake complained that one of them was lingering too long, as TMZ did a big story about last year. And we also have to keep in mind something that Shapiro is pointing out in this filing, that Blake agreed to be part of a movie that Sony wanted to be R-rated because of the intense and intimate scenes in the film. She signed on to do this role. And if she is too sensitive to talk about anything that happens to this character, then why did she even sign up to be a part of the movie? If you can't even call an outfit sexy because she's insulted by that, how can you be a part of a movie like that? It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, as I said, the narrative is changing here. Also, thank you, Casey, for sending me this clip from Morning in America, News Nation, where they actually discuss Blake Lively and her claims against Baldoni.
We have talked about how a lot of people don't want to hire her right now. She's seen as litigious. Then, because Baldoni's lawyers came out and did the whole lawsuit with a timeline, a lot of people just don't believe her. At some point, you got to be like, hey, Blake, at what point is this your problem? At what point are you going to admit that you are the one who decided to promote a domestic abuse movie with booze? And she also named drink after the abuser, the Riley, at the premiere. It was really distasteful. And, you know, Blake does not like to admit she's wrong on anything.
Yeah, as this person is saying here, she is litigious and people don't want to work with her anymore. And of course, that is going to be the result of this. And I think now Blake has started to realize what's happening to her. And the fact that no one is going to work with a person who is suing someone for $650 million because she felt and she thought and she believed that he was fat-shaming her and that he said that her onesie was sexy. Okay, I want to read this text message that Baldoni sent to Rainn Wilson. He's an actor. You probably remember him from The Office. He's also a part of the Baha'i religion. And I think there were other people on this text chain as well. But this is the text that Justin sent after he had been belittled by Ryan Reynolds for 5 or 6 hours. Listen to this. Rainn is asking, any update, brothers? Then Justin says, sorry for not giving an update. Last night was one of the hardest nights of my life. It's hard to describe what happened exactly. The only way to describe it was an ambush. I had no words. I couldn't formulate sentences. My brain was trying to defend itself when they were needing me to apologize for all the ways I have effed up and made her, Blake, feel unsafe. Ryan was talking to me like a 5-year-old and scolding me. They essentially said that Jamie and I are not who we claim to be and that for us to have a podcast is unsafe because it makes people feel like we are safe. I was read from a phone all of the things that I did, while many of them were based in actual situations. The events were wrong and the things were taken completely out of context. The word creepy and abuse were used in reference to me in my behavior. I was then given the words of what to say and had to apologize, which I was unable to do because my brain was trying to comprehend what was happening. I was in shock and basically went into feeling like I was a 7-year-old again. And when I got home last night, I was emotionally paralyzed. It was as bad as it sounds. Jamie did a beautiful job apologizing. I did not have the words. I was embarrassed for myself as it happened in front of the team, but I was embarrassed that I was unable to even formulate the correct words to apologize and honestly just feel like a bad person. It's hard to feel so much of what they believe about me is false because they are so convinced that it's real. He's actually giving them the benefit of the doubt here, saying that he thinks that they believe this is true. Looking for the nuggets of learning, which there are many, and somehow have showed up today. Thanks for Jamie and my wife. And we are currently shooting. I love you. Can you imagine going back to the set after being belittled and berated by Ryan Reynolds for 6 hours? Justin continues to say that my brain was struggling because what I wanted to say and do was run and blow this whole movie up because I feel this was so unjust, and yet the only path forward was to acknowledge her and Ryan's feelings and apologize and take the wrath of an angry husband. Yeah, I couldn't even do that correctly. We were told that this was the worst experience of her life, and others have witnessed this behavior, and the behavior on our set was creepy. I was emotionally paralyzed. I spoke to my therapist for an hour and she tried to get me out of the haze as I literally could not get myself off the couch. I don't know how I will make it through, but I know that I will. And just knowing you're all there for me means the world to me, because even with Jamie here and my wife and family, I've never felt so alone. Putting a smile on, doing my best to lead the crew. I will unpack and process this when we wrap, of course. I apologize for the vulnerability dump. This is one of the few safe spaces I have right now. I love you all and thank you for your prayers. Does that sound like an abuser to anyone? I mean, when I read this, it almost made me teary-eyed because I just could feel his pain. To be accused of something that you haven't done and then you have to apologize for it, to look guilty. I mean, I have no words. And then they also added part of Jamie's deposition where he talks about that birthing video. But before we get into that, I wanted to thank the two sponsors of this video, OneSkin and Bob's Natural. I've spoken about OneSkin so many times here on my channel, and that's because I really trust this brand. If you're like me, your skin needs extra little love this time of year. Between cold weather, long shooting days, my skin often can look a little dry, dull, and stressed. And now I got to try their lip mask. This really helps if you struggle with dry lips during wintertime or during cold or dry weather. They also have this SPF for your lips, also with their OS1 technology. One of the things I love about this is that it doesn't taste anything. I wear it when I'm outside hiking or on the tennis court, and it really gives a great protection for your lips. And never forget to put SPF on, even during the winter time. So what makes all of these products so special is that they use something called OS1 peptide. It's the first ingredient ever to be proven to target senescent cells. And that is the root of wrinkles, creepiness, and loss of elasticity. OneSkin also just launched their limited edition holiday sets, and that includes a nightly rewind gift set, which adds the perfect touch of luxury to your gift list. It's the ultimate upgrade to any nightly ritual, featuring their best-selling face moisturizer, their brand new peptide lip mask, and a sculpting gua sha tool. Each element is designed to work together as your body enters its natural nightly repair mode. It helps renew skin at a cellular level for a stronger, smoother, and more youthful looking complexion. For a limited time, you can try OneSkin for 15% off by using my code FLAA, F-L-A-A, at oneskin.co/FLAA. After your purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them, so please support my channel and say that I sent you. Also, a big thank you to Bob's Natural for sponsoring this video. Getting older is amazing in so many ways, but it also has some challenges. Your joints get a little stiffer, recovery takes a bit longer, your hair gets thinner, your nails break more easily, and your skin just doesn't glow the same. But there are things you can do to feel and look younger. And that's why I'm genuinely in love with Bob's Natural collagen peptides. I started using it because I needed something clean to help with my joints and also with my recovery process after I work out. My skin feels smoother and my hair looks healthier. And the powder just disappears into my smoothie in the morning. There's no taste, there's no clumps. It's just easy. Bubs collagen is really clean. There's no sugar in here, no fillers. It's third-party tested, NSF certified for sports, Whole30 approved, and grass-fed. And the story behind Bubs makes it even better. The brand honors Navy SEAL Glenn Bub Doherty, and they donate 10% of all profits to the charity in his name. Live better for longer, and for a limited time only, you as my viewers and listeners are getting 20% off at Bubs Natural by using my code FLAW, F-L-A-A, at checkout. Just head to bubsnatural.com and use code FLAW. After you purchase, it'll ask where you heard about them, so please say my name to support my channel. Okay, let's get back into Jamie Heat and his deposition, because there are a lot of pages that are attached in the summary judgment pointing to the questions and the answers that Jamie Heat gave Blake Lively's lawyers when they questioned him. So there's a lot of questions about that birthing video. I'm not going to read from it. It's quite a long segment here. But what really stood out to me was the way that Blake's attorney was questioning him about this video, which is a video of his wife giving birth. And he said here that the midwife was present, his children were present, and of course his wife was there. She was in the bathtub with their newborn baby with a towel over it. And the way that Blake Lively's attorneys were questioning him, like this was like some criminal interrogation, making this moment that, of course, for Jamie Heat and his wife is some of the most beautiful thing that they probably experienced in their life. And then Blake Lively's attorneys is trying to make that into something dirty. And that just made me feel like vomiting after reading it. Anyway, they continue to ask Jamie Heat about the situation in Blake's trailer. So they were talking about a meeting that they wanted to set up, and they were trying to plan a time for this meeting, and they didn't want it to collide with shooting the movie, because I'm sure at this point there's so many delays here. And then Jamie explains that he went to Blake's makeup trailer with Justin himself and Angie Giannetti and Alex Sachs. And then he explains what happened in Blake's makeup trailer. He said that he went up to the trailer and knocked on the door. And this is how he explained it in his deposition. He says, so I then knocked, to be clear, with Justin and Angie and Alex with me at the bottom of her steps. I knocked on the door, heard some indication to come in. As I took a step up, I saw that she was leaned back. She looked what I thought was either maybe breastfeeding or nursing. I said to her, oh, it looks like you're busy. I can come back. As I turned around, she says, no, that's okay. You can come in, just look away. And I said, sure. Now, I never saw the front of her. I just saw this, which appeared to me a familiar position of her feeding or nursing or pumping. So then I walked over to the side, looked away. We had a 2-minute conversation, could have been 3 minutes, about whether or not we were going to have the meeting that night or the next day. I was trying to negotiate with her. So I then left, walked down the stairs out to the makeup trailer where Angie, Justin, and Alex were. Reported to them, she wants to do it tonight. I tried to convince her to do it tomorrow, but she wants to do it tonight. She walked out 4 or 5 minutes later, greeted us, said hello. We went into her then trailer and we had a discussion about what she wanted to meet with us. Then the lawyer here is asking Jamie, did Miss Lively discuss the trailer incident? She did bring it up, says Jamie. What did she say about it in your memory? Asked the attorney. Then Jamie says, after she had said something about, as I said, that she thought the video at first was corn, that video, the birthing video, recognized that it wasn't because it was not. She then said also, you know, when you came into the trailer a couple of weeks ago, I asked you to look away. And at some point you made eye contact with me. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. She says, I'm not saying you were trying to coop a look. I'm just saying that I had asked you to turn away and you made eye contact with me. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even realize that. Maybe I happened to glance through our conversation. I have no memory of it. But then she moved on to the next. First of all, this whole situation, just try to imagine the roles being switched here. That it is a woman knocking on the door and a man is not dressed properly and says, come in, and that says, turn around and we can still have this meeting. How would that look? I mean, if he was Ryan Reynolds here or Blake Lively, he would twist this situation into saying, she invited me in and she wasn't properly dressed. It was really traumatizing for me. But of course, he's not going to do that because he's a decent person. But the fact that she says, you looked me in the eye. I mean, if at least she would have said, you tried to take a peek, which she's saying you didn't. But she said, you looked me in the eye and I told you to look away. Can you imagine saying that to someone? I mean, the conversation continues about this situation in the trailer where the lawyer's asking, and then when she came to the trailer for the meeting, did she say anything about what had just occurred in her makeup trailer? She did not. This is on day 2. This is May 16, says the attorney. Did you ever learn that Ms. Lively had a different view of the incident in the trailer prior to her testimony? And then Jamie said, I learned that her different view is when I read the CRD complaint. So Blake never complained about the situation until she basically filed the lawsuit. Okay, let's get over to Justin Baldoni's deposition here, because this is so interesting how they're trying to corner him to make him look like a bad person. She's going after his podcast and after his book about being man enough, and she asks him about toxic masculinity, and Justin explains why he thought it was so important for him to speak out about these things, because he wanted to help men become better versions of themselves. And he's explaining to Blake Lively's lawyer that there's this stigma from men and not to seek help and not to seek therapy, and he wanted to be a voice for that. Then she's trying to trick him into this situation here where she's mentioning Me Too. Just listen to this. She's saying, do you believe yourself to be an ally of women or a feminist ally? Baldoni says, I certainly have attempted to be. Then Blake's lawyer says, you're aware of the Me Too movement, I'm assuming. And he says, I am. Then she says, are you aware of an idea that came out of the Me Too movement, that one should believe women, both believe women when they speak out about misconduct against them? Yes, I'm aware, Baldoni said. Then she's asking, do you agree with that idea? And then there's no more in this script here. But just like the way they're trying to trap him into saying, like, you know, you're such a supporter for women and feminism, but then you don't believe Blake Lively. I mean, it's so dumb, this storyline that they're going for. I mean, no jury in this world is going to side with her. Also, there's an interesting little side note here from his deposition where Baldoni is talking about a conversation. I think he had this conversation with Jennifer Abel, and they're talking about Stephanie Jones here. And the page before this one isn't there, so I don't know exactly what happened, but Justin is saying that I think she represented The Rock, which was Stephanie Jones. And she had said on that call that Mr. Reynolds had like terrorized The Rock or something to that extent. Something about a letter. I don't remember the details, but something about like he had written a letter and it was like they wouldn't do press together. I don't know. It was a lot of gossip. But that's why I remember laughing, because I was just like, oh, did you feel supported by her on that call is what Blake Lively's lawyer is asking. And he says, yeah, as I said earlier, it's kind of felt like, oh, don't worry, she's this and that. So I don't know what happened here, but I thought it was interesting that he mentioned The Rock. Because, as you know, Stephanie Jones used to represent The Rock. And there was this hit piece on Stephanie Jones in Business Insider where they mentioned that The Rock left her because of a lot of disagreements. So he didn't want to be represented by Stephanie Jones and Jones' work anymore. And according to Jennifer Abel's lawsuit, Stephanie Jones used to plant negative stories about her clients. And I Googled this incident, and it looks like the story here, according to the press, is that Ryan Reynolds was really annoyed with The Rock because he showed up late on set, that he had to wait for him for like 5 hours. That doesn't make much sense to me, because I know I've met The Rock so many times, and I remember the feud between him and Vin Diesel. That feud was mostly because Vin Diesel was late on set and The Rock wasn't. And The Rock is known for his work ethics. And I've met him so many times, and I have to say, he is one of the most sympathetic, polite, and amazing guys in Hollywood. I've never heard anyone say a bad word about him. And that's why I don't believe this story. I think something else happened between Ryan and The Rock. And I think that some publicists probably spun this story to smear The Rock. Anyways, that was a little side note here. Yeah, there's so much new evidence coming out, and I think the media is starting to see what's happening here. And there is this report, Rob Shooter reported on this. He's saying that he has learned that Hollywood circles are buzzing, and not because of Justin Baldoni's text, but because the alleged angry husband confrontation fits what many insiders quietly call Ryan Reynolds two very different personas. In newly revealed court documents, Baldoni claims Reynolds scolded him during a tense meeting in January, allegedly speaking to him like a 5-year-old. But while the text shocked fans, industry veterans say they've heard stories like this before. People think Ryan is the funny, charming guy from the commercials, one longtime studio insider tells Shooter Scoop. But behind closed door, he's a lot more intense. He switches. It's like there's a Hollywood Ryan, and then there's the Ryan that insiders meet. Another insider said that Ryan is fiercely protective of Blake, sometimes to the point of creating what colleagues describes as a very different energy than the relaxed, joking persona he's famous for. He controls his image better than almost any A-lister, a talent manager explains. But the Baldoni situation isn't shocking. People in this town have seen the other side. Interesting. I wonder if Ryan Reynolds would agree to be a part of this feud if he knew the consequences. I think the answer to that is pretty simple, because this is costing him a lot. Anyways, as I said in the beginning of this episode, I think everyone was a little surprised, or very surprised actually, that Blake Lively's team decided not to file a summary judgment. They gave the impression to everyone that they were going to, and then all of a sudden they didn't. And it makes you wonder why. I think that this definitely shows how weak Blake Lively's case is. Because what they would have to do in this summary judgment is to show all this evidence and say, look at all this evidence we have. We don't even need to go to court. We don't have to go to trial, because we have so much evidence here that you can just rule on this evidence. And as we know, she has zero evidence at this point, and she's not going to get any evidence probably, because discovery is over. And everything that she has claimed in her lawsuit is based on her feelings, her beliefs, her thoughts. I felt like this. I think this happened. I believe this is the situation. And as we've now learned, you can base an entire lawsuit from feelings. But is it going to hold up in court? I feel like her lawyers don't even think so at this point, and that's why they chose not to. I could be wrong. I'm interested to see how they respond to this summary judgment. I think they have to respond to it before the judge rules on this, and that's probably going to take months. Everything takes so much time. But I'm curious to see how they respond. And interestingly enough, the way Blake responded to all of these headlines that's all over the internet, she posted a story on Instagram promoting Blake Brown. How fitting. That just explains everything to me. That's what she's thinking about in this moment, to sell more hair products. Anyway, that's it for me, you guys. This was a long episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And it makes me so happy to see that the narrative is now changing. I'm sure Blake is going to come out with some hit pieces next week, trying to bring him down again, because that's a part of this whole game. But at this point, I feel like people are starting to see the truth. So thanks for watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode of Flawsome Talk. And I'll see you soon. Bye.
Yeah, we flawsome talk.